So you're here from Quebec,
Yes.
and you guys have been running cap and trades how many years now?
Several years now. We linked our carbon market to California's in 2014, and therefore setting up the largest cap and trade system in North America. It's been very successful. We've had 8 credit auctions jointly so far, and for Quebec we've raised over $1.2 billion, and that money is entirely invested in Quebec's Green Fund, which finances adaptation measures, mitigation measures, mainly in electrification of transportation, in cleaner fuels, energy efficiency programs, but there's a wide series of investments also in the development of clean tech in a wide variety of sectors. And so not only are we effectively reducing our emissions with the cap and trade system, but also we are also investing in our new economy and creating new jobs, new industries, new technologies, which are right now contributing to lowering our emissions, but also creating a vibrant economy.
And among the other Canadian provinces, there are some others that are also keen on this agenda and want to get involved. Ontario is planning to join your carbon market. There are others that seem less keen, and I understand that the federal government now wants to introduce carbon pricing across the country. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's important that every province, every territory, and the federal government each pitch in Canada's overall effort to contribute to the Paris goals. And so we were very excited last spring when Ontario passed legislation that will create their own carbon market and link it to Quebec and California's. We were in Mexico a few weeks ago, and we signed a historic agreement with Mexico, and Mexico not only intends to set up a carbon market around 2018, but is willing to link it with our market as well. And if you add the RGGI states, which have a carbon market, you're seeing that there's a broad movement towards cap and trade and carbon markets, and also China's big decision to set up cap and trade by 2017 for the entire country.
But these are all people who want to do it.
Yeah,
they're volunteering.
I'm getting there. So, but I'm just, you're referring to Ontario, but it's important to also hit on the fact that there's a momentum around cap and trade. Especially China is going to be a game changer when they come online in 2017. And Quebec and California has been working with China on setting up their carbon market. So that's very exciting. So on the Canadian front, back to Ontario joining our market, that's going to mean that over 50% of Canada's economy and over 60% of its population is going to have one similar cap and trade system. We have BC and Alberta that have instituted a carbon tax already. So when you add those 4 up, you're looking at around 80% of the country that already has some form of carbon pricing. Now, we share Canada's goal, the federal government's role, a goal to set up, make sure that every province, every territory contributes to the goal and to establish norms that make sure that every province pitches in. Quebec's position on this is that we already have a system, and that system works. And so what we want to do is collaborate with the federal government, but at the same time, we want the federal government to recognize the fact that provinces can choose their own systems, and especially when those systems are actually working, and rather focus on maybe provinces that maybe are not doing as much as they could be doing right now.
Make everyone pull their weight.
Yeah.
And around the world, I mean, if you talk to economists, then carbon pricing is, it's a no-brainer. In theory, it's the most efficient way of reducing emissions. But in fact, politically, in some places, it proves more challenging. And particularly getting a carbon price that's high enough that it's really going to drive people to, change their operations or invest in cleaner technology. I mean, do you think the price needs to be higher? Do you think that carbon markets need to be tightened up to really drive ambition further?
Well, that's a great question. And obviously, when you talk about carbon taxes, the price is the key component, and it has to be high enough so that it actually drives emissions down. When you're talking about a cap and trade system, price is a component, but the system is also based on legislated reduction targets. And so, yes, the price is important, but it's not as much as how high is the price, is how the entire system is built. So it's much more complex. There are free allowances, there are offsets, there are different protocols that are in place, and it's the overall policy ecosystem for each jurisdiction. Like in Quebec, we have a lot of different laws and also different regulations that also accompany the system, and also the $1.2 billion that I was alluding to so far that we're reinvesting in the economy. All of these contribute to achieving our goal. So I think price, yes, can be important, especially if you're talking about a carbon tax system. It has to be high enough. But when you're talking about cap and trade, you also have to make sure that you're not hurting your economy. You have to strike that balance between achieving your reductions goals and giving businesses the leeway and the time to adapt. And I think we're striking that balance. And we've seen it in California, we've seen it in Quebec. Not only are we able to reduce our emissions, but at the same time, we're developing our economy. So yes, price is important, but it's not the only component. It has to be tied to real reduction targets that are legislated. That's what we're doing, and it has to be accompanied by a whole set of other measures that contribute to the goal.